form of a lipid, and all fats are classified as lipids, although there's a broad classification of lipids, and without getting into the categories of polyunsaturated, monounsaturated, and saturated fats, what I can say is this, is that omega-3 fatty acids are the absolute antithesis. They're like fire to water, hot is to cold, to saturated fats. They're absolutely opposite of saturated fats. And altered fats, such as trans and hydrogenated fats, like we find in margarine and refined foods. Whereas saturated fats and trans fats clog up our system, clog up our circulatory system. Omega-3 fatty acids, they serve as a solvent to break up saturated fats. They're like Teflon to our arteries.
Wow.
We're putting this Teflon stuff in our engine to prolong the life of our engine. Flax oil is like Teflon for our arteries. It reduces the aggregation of the blood platelets. Blood platelets can clump and they can cause clots, increase your blood pressure, lead to strokes. The flax oil, omega-3 fatty acids, they cause the blood platelets to become more less sticky and more slippery. This leads to a reduction in heart disease, directly a reduction in blood cholesterol levels. It actually increases our happy cholesterol, which we call the HDL, and it lowers our LDL, what I call the lousy cholesterol.
Okay, interesting.
Omega-3 fatty acids are truly heart food. In fact, the heart pumps from 60 to 100 times per minute at resting, and it requires a tremendous amount of energy to do this. In fact, if you ever have one of those little hand exercisers and you try to pump it back and forth, that's roughly the amount of force that the heart has to work against. Now, how long can you do that? Not very long. So the heart requires the absolute pinnacle of nutrition. And we know that the heart selectively uses omega-3 fatty acids for its fuel source based on the fact that it requires the highest form of nutrition possible. Yet we know just how deficient we are. In regards to low-fat diets, it's such an interesting topic because ever since we went low-fat in this country, what's happened? We've gotten fatter and fatter and fatter as a nation. In fact, fat isn't necessarily the culprit. It's the type of fat that we're eating. We need to incorporate healthy fats into our diet. In fact, I've got a great question for the viewing audience if they can trip up their doctor or nutritionist. And the question is simply this: what is the single form of calorie that cannot be converted to a saturated fat? Because, Dr. Dietrich, you and I know that if we eat too much protein and we don't exercise or spend it in energy production, that it can be converted to saturated fat. We know that even by eating carbohydrates, brown rice, for example, even, which is a healthy food, but if we don't exercise, if we're not expending energy, that can be converted to saturated fat, which is unhealthy to our bodies. Every other form of fat, when eaten, is either ingested as a form of saturated fat or is made into saturated fat by the body. The only single form of calorie that cannot be converted into a saturated fat and therefore not contribute to weight gain are omega-3 fatty acids. So ask your doctor or nutritionist. I guarantee you they won't know. You will have educated them. So when it comes to weight loss, some of our most forward-thinking nutritionists in this country, individuals like Ann Louise Gittleman, who is one of the leading women's health experts in this world, or in this country, I should say. She's written a book called Eat Fat to Lose Weight. Sounds contradictory.
To lose weight.
What she's advocating is to eat the right kinds of fat. In fact, she says that a dietary or weight loss program without the ingestion or use of omega-3 fatty acids is destined to fail. When we eat foods and they don't have a form of fat, they pass very, very quickly through our digestive tract. And what happens here is we get a short burst of energy because we're eating a refined food, we're eating a food without fat, leaves our stomach, goes into our intestine, we see a spike in blood insulin. We see a spike in blood sugar, and then almost an immediate drop, which leads to hypoglycemia. We're hungry again. When you put flax in the diet, such as I've done in my book, Flax for Life, I've incorporated flaxseed oil into 101 delicious recipes. And by incorporating flaxseed oil, this has a specific metabolic function. It holds the food in the intestine, or I should say in the stomach, for a longer period of time. You have a feeling of fullness and satiation following your meal. It meters the release of the food from the stomach to the intestine. That leads to a slow and gradual rise in blood sugar. And due to the fact that it's being metered out of the stomach, you get a plateau of blood sugar, which corresponds to a plateau of energy. You're not hungry. You don't feel hungry. You get a very gradual decline in blood sugar, which just basically means that, from 4 to 6 hours, you start getting hungry again. Absolutely critical to include omega-3 fatty acids in any weight loss and dietary program.
So I should tell our viewing audience that to eat fats. Eat a lot of good fats and get rid of the margarines and get rid of the low fat and get rid of all those things that have no fat in them. What about these foods? We're kind of running out of time, but I just want to talk a little bit about, you see things in the supermarket as an example that says no cholesterol, or eat margarine because you don't have the fat in there, the animal fat in there. Get away from those things. Is that what you're saying, basically?
Boy, I tell you, was the wool ever pulled over our eyes when it came to margarine? What margarine is we start out with an oil like, take this for example. This is corn oil. You can see that this is liquid because it's a polyunsaturated oil. And again, dominant in omega-6 fatty acids, which are not good for our body. I'll say that right now. But what they take is they take this corn oil, they put it in a huge vat, they subject it to astronomical temperatures in the presence of nickel, which is a heavy metal. They inject hydrogen ions, and what happens is it literally transforms the molecular structure of this oil into a semi-solid state, which we know as margarine. We also know this, that margarine, the molecules, these frankenfoods, which margarine has been transformed into, the molecule is unrecognizable to the human body. The body does not know what to do with it. It gums up our cells, it gums up our cardiovascular system. In fact, Harvard Medical School did a study on the form of fat that is in margarine, this frankenfat. And they found that these frankenfats, these trans fatty acids, they contribute to 50,000 deaths annually.
Wow.
What if we had an infectious disease in this country that was killing 50,000 lives a year? I mean, we would hear about that in the news, wouldn't we?
We sure would.
We're not hearing about the toxic type of fat in margarine.
Wow. Jade, I'll tell you, I love your enthusiasm. You have so much to give to our viewing audience today. It's just incredible. We can go on and on and on and on and talk about this. You got me convinced. You got me to understand this really, really good now, to get some more fats in the diet and get the good fat in the diet. And just by taking some simple flax oil, basically, that'll just take our health and bring it up another notch, or a couple notches, actually. So, yeah, that's what people need to do out there. And I'm going to need to tell the viewing audience that eat some more fats. I wish we could go on some more. We have another segment to this particular program that we're going to be talking about. I'm going to be talking about with you also shortly. Okay? So for our viewing audience out there, like Jade says, eat some more fats. And again, it's been an exciting, exciting show. And hope to be seeing you soon. And as I say always, I hope you and your families the best of good health. We'll see you soon. Excellent, Jade.
Good job.
That was great.
Yeah, we have enough material.